Hey guys, in this video we'll be loading other players, and this is a huge milestone for us because it's the first time in this whole series we'll actually see um, some indication that yes, other players are seen for us, and the whole system kind of works now and it kind of starts looking like a real game. So yesterday I tried making this whole thing work, making an enemy snake show up, and it was torture. In fact, I recorded video while doing it. I thought as I record, I'll make it up and take it forward, but it didn't work. And the I had to edit that video so much that the it I probably spent like 2 to 3 hours just editing it. That's how bad it was. I had to erase code. I had to blur the screen. This is how tough it was for me. So I've decided that we're gonna break it down more. Okay, we won't do this in a quick way, in like one video. This loading other people might take 2 videos. So let's be open to that. Firstly, okay, guys. Firstly, let's go to to our node code here. Yeah. So you know how we said players of I dot length would be just this, but I made a small change here. So firstly, this players phi dot shape is equal to real data dot shape. The thing is, this kind of reads it as a string. So when we do, and that's okay really. It's fine if the shape is stored as a string. It's a JSON string. So we'll it's a nice readable array type string. So that's okay with us. But when we are seeing its length, we want it to be counted as an array's length, not the string's length. That's why we are JSON parsing it first and then putting length first. The thing is, I don't want to put JSON parse here because it would actually complicate things in the future. Let it just be a JSON string. That's okay. And then I added the console.log player, so whenever somebody updates, it'll work. And let's see how this works. You can see I've been running a few tests as well. So node server.js, and here I'll just run this, call this one Jake, and call this one Alan. And now, these two are just here, so cool. Again, you have to pause Node.js with a single left click. Kind of pauses the whole thing. So this is the players array. It was being printed every frame. Not every frame, every time, very frequently. And this is the first one. This is the first array for Jake. So Jake ID 1, length 10, and it's showing the shape as a string. The green stuff is a string. So that's okay with this really. It doesn't matter. And even here, this even for Alan, it's showing the shape as a string, and the length, however, is 10. So that part is working well for us. And cool. I'm just gonna stop this, Control C, and I'll close these windows too. And let's see what we have to do now. Yeah, firstly, I'll start by making an enemy object, Alt O. We'll call this O enemy. And don't think about it too much. This is just an enemy snake's head. We won't even do the body now. So just we'll do the snake. We'll do the head. And this let's just focus on making this much work first. Okay. So firstly, let's go to our Node.js code, and yeah, you can see here. Yesterday, I tried making some kind of a function to tell other players. So I'll do it again. In fact, I can just cut out this part. Yeah. All right. So I've made a new function here called state update. You guys remember that the players array has all updated information about all our snakes. So now we have to send all this information to everybody else. So there are three players on the server, Jake, Alan, and Charlie. We have to tell Jake about Alan and Charlie. We have to tell Alan about Jake and Charlie, that way. So I'm making a recurring function here. How am I doing that? In the function definition itself, I'm saying set timeouts. What set timeout does is it runs whatever function you put here in these many milliseconds. Set timeout runs this function in these many milliseconds. So it waits for this much time and then runs this function. So first I'm defining it and then I'm running it once. So it kind of sets off a chain reaction of running this function again and again. And now what we'll do here is we have to tell all players about all players, right? So let me run a for loop for let I in players. And let me try to get this player's profile, but I don't want to send the socket. So we can directly use player's I, but let me just do it with another variable, var this player and JSON object, dictionary, whatever. And first we'll put the name, I guess, name players I dot name, comma, let's do ID. Here also ID. Then exposition. Not X, I mean, sorry, there's nothing like X here, sorry. It's just the shape. So that, what else? Name, ID, the length can be derived, so I'm not sending that. And yeah, this is kind of like a profile of this player, right? So let's say this player is Jake, who we have held at the moment. Now we have to tell about Jake to everybody else. So let's do that. For let J in players. Now in this, we tell everybody. So how do you select a socket object? We say players J, we have selected a player. Now dot socket. So we have selected this guy's WS instance. And then dot send. And now all we have to do is send this. How do we send this? We would say JSON dot stringify of whatever that object is, this player. Now there's one important thing here. We use an event-based system, so we can't just send this raw thing. We have to give it an event name. So event name state update in a string. Then yeah, and there's another thing. If this is Jake, we don't want to send Jake's info again. So you can just do a simple if statement here. If I is not equal to J, I is not equal to J, paste this. So only if this is not being sent to Jake again. So Alan's info is not sent to Alan again. Charlie's info is not sent to Charlie again. That way. So this is how this whole state update thing works. Now let's see how the GameMaker client would handle this. So yeah, this is how we handle any event that we do receive. So now let's create a case for what's the state update, right? State update. And now break. So now what do we do when we get this? Let's think about it logically. We are on Jake's screen. What do we do when we get a state update? So if we have Alan on our screen, so if we do have a snake for Alan, we have to update Alan's snake's configuration. Else we have to create Alan if Alan is not existent. So firstly, let me do this. And yeah, this I should have told you guys this about the O enemy. let's add in the create event the most basic identifier, which is client ID of this enemy. Okay, so I'm setting client ID to 0 here. That's like unassigned enemy. So when I go back here, let's do with o enemy. If we find the right enemy. So in the state update, how do we say that this is Jake's info? We give Jake's ID, right? So how do we say to somebody else? No, so we are telling Jake about Alan. So we have to tell Alan's name, Alan's ID, Alan's shape. So from Alan's ID, it will know which snake to identify. So we say if real data ID. In fact, should put a real over this. If this is the client ID, the variable we just created, you know, then then we have to close that. So now what do we do? Then we have to actually update the shape, right? So let me go ahead to in enemy and create a variable for the shape. At the moment, the shape is just something, let it be this, that's fine. But then in client, we'll change that. So we'll say shape is equal to real data snake shape. And now let me make this a little more better. This is the case when we have found. So if there is no Alan on our screen, so if Charlie and Alan were already on the server and Jake is a newcomer, what do we do then? We have to create Charlie and Alan for Jake on Jake's screen. So for that, let me make this make a variable here called var found is equal to false. So if you have found this guy, then you say found is equal to true. Okay. And if we have, okay, and this is found equals true. So if we have not found this guy, whoever this is, then we have to create him, right? So to create him, we say var new enemy is equal to, the normal instance create layer. I'm just going to initialize it to 0, 0. It's fine. It'll get updated later. Layer ID is instances. Then object name is enemy. And yep, that's pretty much it. And the most important thing is we have to give the client ID now. So new enemy dot client ID is real data client ID. Yep, that's how this whole thing is supposed to work. So firstly, we are making state updates. We are just broadcasting all the players to all the players. And then on the client side, we are processing this by creating a new player for this enemy if he's not there, or just updating the shape variable. And now we'll see what to do with the shape now. So we're not updating any coordinates. We just have an O enemy and a shape. So what do we do with the shape? Alright, so now I've made some changes in the code. So in the state update, we're just taking this player and for the shape we were just sending the shape directly, as an array or just stringifying the array and sending it to every player, taking every player's coordinates and sending it to every player. But the thing is, it's really annoying to send arrays through this whole communication channel that we have developed. In fact, it's annoyingly not working, and I don't want you guys to follow the same uh, follow the same thing and get confused more. So what I've done is I'm kind of changing the shape array into a dictionary. I'm converting it, not exactly converting it. I'm making a special dictionary here called special shape, and what I'm doing is I'm taking every bone and kind of printing it in a very nice way with this code, and I can show that to you guys. So firstly, let me just run the node server once, and here too. Okay, no name, something. And I'm actually logging a lot. Yeah, okay. Pausing the log. So now you guys can see this. What is this? This is that special shape dictionary that I was talking about. So for every bone, I'm taking, zero. This is the first bone. This is the first tailbone, second tailbone, third tailbone, fourth tailbone. And I'm taking its coordinates. But even this is not a dictionary. This is a JSON stringified form of that dictionary's coordinates, x and y. So the first one is at this comma this. And also there's another uh, attribute in this special shape dictionary called length. So the length of the whole thing. So this is like here 0 to 9, so it's a 10. Okay, and this is the system I'm following. I'm converting this, shape array into this special shape dictionary. And it's only because sending arrays is extremely hard. Okay, I hope you guys understand. Now yeah, that's all I really wanted to show that to you guys. And so what's actually happening in this code? We're sending this shape, the JSON, we're sending that dictionary back to the player. And what is actually happening when the player receives that? So let's go to the async networking. In state update, what happens is, actually, I think I deleted it by mistake. Yeah. So shape is taken as real data shape, whatever the shape is, okay? And let's have a look at ONEB. So I initialized the shape to 1, actually, just number 1, okay? And I did a very simple thing in the step event. I was like, if the shape is not equal to 1, so once a server changes it, it will never be the number 1, right? So then this will happen once the server is sending us this enemy's new shape. So what I'm doing is, it could be better if I do this side by side, right? So I'm doing var real shape is equal to JSON decode shape. So I'm converting this to a readable JSON object. I'm sorry, to a readable DS map in GameMaker. Okay, so real shape is a DS map with this, all this. Okay, but these are still strings. And then for var I equals, so I'm doing a for loop with the length parameter. So, and I'm doing I lesser than the length, so it will go from 0 1 2 3 till 9. Okay, so basically all these attributes, it that's what I will traverse through. And what I'm doing is I'm sending this raw coordinates to ds map find value. In this DS map, we're finding the value of this that number as a string. So when I is equal to 4, we're looking at this 4 attribute, and we're trying to find what is there in that field. So raw coordinates. So raw coordinates in this case for I equals 4 would be this string. Got it? And now let's see how we'll build on that. Sorry I skipped this much, but it was really difficult. That's all I can say. And yeah, I'm actually recording this video after a week of my previous recordings. So now we have raw coordinates. Now let's work with coordinates. We have to JSON parse this, right? JSON decode that. So JSON underscore decode. Got it? And that's good. Now we have this, but as a normal DS map. So what we'll do is we'll draw this, and I'll just draw a ball for it. It can get very confusing with tailbones and everything, so I'm just gonna draw it. And this won't be at x and y. It'll be at uh, coordinates is the DS map, and we're looking for x first, and then coordinates, and now we're looking for y, right? And yep, this should pretty much work, I guess. Maybe I think this should be in the draw even, but let's see what happens. Actually, yeah, let's cancel this, run it again, run this also again, and yeah. So let's call this Jake, and let's call this instance Alan. I'm really interested to see what actually is happening. Okay, it did crash, fine. And let's see why it did crash. That's because real argument is undefined. Alright, it was probably crashing because this was undefined for some reason. I mean, this variable. So the real argument was undefined. I don't know why. But then what I did is I put real inside for this and real for this too. So it makes it a number for sure. And for like 100% success, I guess 100% avoiding errors, let's do something. And yep, I'm gonna do a try and accept statement. Sorry, try catch, right? So yeah, it catches some error and fine, let's just catch it. So that's the whole thing I'm gonna try now. And let me stop the Node.js server. And if there's any residual, yeah, they did appear by the way. So I'll show you guys what's happening exactly. Node server.js and run this too. So let me just call this Alan. Oops, it's supposed to be Jake, right? The first one's always Jake for us. Then Jake, and we actually have the snaky thing working. Wow. I have waited so long for this. So long. Man, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm recording this video like after a week, and I'm just so happy that it's finally done. Wow. And I'll show you guys some flaws in this whole game. Okay, firstly, you see, uh, in this screen, this is the real snake, right? On the right hand side screen, this snake is the one which is supposed to be getting followed. And you see the other snakes, the enemy snake, that thing's head needs to be, enlarged a bit. So I'll do that.